We're all searching for it, or people. The ones you can call when you're at the end of your rope. The ones you ask for advice in a difficult stage or deciding on which jeans to buy. The ones who you share dreams and hopes with, who get you to the gym and love your kids like their own. Motherhood was never meant to be a solitary role, and now it doesn't need to be. Here we discuss everything from our favorite kidisms to mental wellness to our best mom hacks and more. Mamas are world changers, and it's time to stop bearing that responsibility alone. So whether you're driving carpool, rocking a sleeping baby, or doing dishes, we're here for you. Welcome to the village.
Welcome to episode 23 of the Village Podcast. I'm your host, Missy Allred, and today I have my friend Anna Peterson with me to chat. We love the mom chat. So Anna, will you tell us a little bit about yourself, what life looks like right now?
Let's see. I am a mom of two and I don't know, 2 and 7 point something kids. I'm cooking another one. It's almost baked. Yeah, I'm due next month with our third kid. I spend a lot of time just outside with my kids. We love to go on adventures. Just go visit different places. We love being with people. So I would say I'm a pretty social person. I spend a lot of time with people, and in my spare time, I enjoy music and working on lots of random projects. Don't really have like a set hobby. I just jump around to lots of different things.
I love it. Okay, so when we were chatting, we were talking, one of the things you said that you're really passionate about is simplifying as a mom and just kind of life in general. So what does that look like for you? Maybe in the past, like how you got into things, and then what that looks like right now in this stage, because it's not always going to look the same.
Yes. So in the past, I would look at simplifying as more stuff, I would say, and now it's less about stuff. So I guess I'll start with talking about my coming to a simplifying journey. It was kind of thrust upon me through necessity, because when we were newlyweds, we moved just all the time. Like, I was counting the other day, and we'll be celebrating our 7th anniversary this December, and we've lived in 6 places.
Oh my goodness.
So we just moved a ton. So with every move, we'd move to a different space, and we'd have different amounts of closets and different things that could fit and that couldn't fit. And obviously I was also packing and unpacking all the time. And so it really just caused me to be like, what am I actually using, and what do I want to hold on to and bring with me and organize in these new spaces? And yeah, it was, and I will preface this too with, I was going through my own simplifying process and trying to convert my husband, but you kind of just have to like come to things in their own terms. So like there's
Yeah.
been a rising, and I would say at this point in time, like, he's totally gung-ho with like minimalism and simplifying, but I kind of had to give him his space in a lot of areas to like come to that for himself. So yeah, so that's like, back then that's what I would maybe look more at minimalism as, is just like the actual stuff and really downsizing the amount of stuff that I owned. But then it kind of reaches a point where you do have that lifestyle, like it's more just maintenance. It's not like I'm just purging things all the time and like constantly decluttering. Like, it's more just touch up
Yeah.
type of stuff. I would say at this point in simplifying it more, it's more with routines. So it'll be like, okay, things are feeling a little crazy right now. What is a necessity, and like what are my core values, and then what are these extra things, and how can I simplify these things? Or even like, I don't know, relationships, gift giving, like anything that just feels like an extra stressor, just looking at those things and saying, how can I make this work for my family and my life better?
Okay, I love that. So what does that look like right now?
with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Okay.
with your routines, which I'm sure, give you a month and your answer's gonna totally change, but
Yeah, yeah, I'm like, I feel like a bit of an imposter right now because I'm nesting, so my life's not really simple. I'm adding in lots of extra work and stuff. But actually no. As I said that out loud, I'm like, actually, no, that is forcing me to simplify because I'm very pregnant right now. And so even my physical capacity to do what I've been doing is slowly decreasing. So I just have to look at like, okay, this is my usual routine that I get done. Usually like Mondays I do this and Tuesdays I do this and Wednesdays I do this. And I try to have all of these different things done before my husband comes home from work because I want to have the evening free to chill or do whatever I want to do, you know? But these days, sometimes that requires more shifting. Like, I couldn't get to all of this today because I'm really slow right now, you know? So, like, for example, like doing the laundry or cleaning the house takes me like 3 times as long. And so I might not get that done in as short of a time. And I have to maybe I had this big to-do list and all these extra things that I wanted to add in that I usually can. But right now it's just about like hitting the basics and then looking at my things that I want to get done and saying like what is actually the most important to me, and if I have some extra time, I'm going to put it into XYZ.
how do you decide what's most important to you?
Um I think just envisioning myself in the future and having certain things done or undone and how it would make me feel,
Ooh, I love that.
you know? So if I did
What's
like,
like a for example?
I will go look at my list right now.
I love that you have a list.
I have to be careful with my list because I do have OCD. So I have to like, take breaks from them and like, yeah, let myself sit with a lot of things undone. But um, let's see, where did that go? I think I renamed it because I used to say before baby's born, and now I've just said projects so that I don't make it feel like this. I want to get this done before the baby's born.
I totally had a before baby was born with Lucy, and I think I got like three things done. There was
Yeah,
like 20
exactly.
something things, and I was like, it's fine. And she's over a year now, and I still haven't touched the rest of them. So I
Totally.
was like,
Like,
whatever I have nesting energy for, I needed something to go to, and that's all I got to.
totally, totally. Let's see. So, okay. So, like, this one is funny. I haven't gone through photos on my phone in a long time. So in my nesting, it's been like I really need to get my photos organized and updated, right? Or another one is like finish caulking and like finish doing the touch up paint on places in our house from projects we've done.
Uh-huh.
Which I can look at that and be like, if I still had patches of white on my walls when my baby came, it would be okay.
Yeah.
Like that's really not necessary
Yeah.
to do before she comes. But like making freezer meals, I feel like, what would I rather
Yeah.
have holding? I rather have a freezer full of like things I can pull out or like
A
walls.
perfectly painted wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in like that hectic energy, sometimes you
It
can just
feels so important. Yeah.
start working on the spot painting when in reality, if you slow down, you'd be like, oh no, this takes precedence.
So it's like more of like a mental thing, being able to slow down so that you can make those decisions. 'Cause you're
Yes.
totally right. Like in that frantic energy, okay, so like our front two rooms. So we bought our house and then moved in with my parents and gutted almost our entire house and redid it and then moved into our house
Uh,
when it was like livable again,
yes. Yes.
which meant that there were like some projects to finish up and some things have never been finished up. Like my
Totally.
baseboards in my front two rooms have still never been painted.
Yes.
3 years
Yes.
later, and
Yeah.
they're still not painted. And part of me, like when I do get in those frantic energies, it's like that feels like such a big deal and it has to get done. And I can't believe that I haven't done it and I'm such a failure. But like
Yes.
really, yes, I would like it done, partly just because it makes them easier to clean than they are
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
yes, they would look nicer, but also it's been fine for 3 years. Like
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
nothing's gonna change if they don't get painted. It's fine.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
in the moment, it feels like life and death.
Yeah. And I definitely think like I'm always coming to this reckoning of I will always have these things that I want to get done, and I will never reach this destination of like just complete peace. Everything's done. Now I can finally get to these other things that maybe aren't getting things done, but that are fulfilling for me. Like, that's why you have to balance that, because you will always have your list of little extra projects that you want to sprinkle in that feel really important, but maybe like you'll get to them eventually.
Yeah.
You
And sometimes they are important, even if it's just I need a nap time project
know? Mm-hmm.
or some things will come up like our backyard patio has been on our list forever. And it's like getting to the point where I'm like, no, I want this outdoor space because it feels hard to like have people over or
Yes.
I
Yeah.
want that gathering space. And so that is feeling like more of a priority, even though it's not like a huge deal. Like I
Yeah.
love what you said about core values of like what how did you phrase it? Like how would this change how my life is in a few months? And like that actually would affect it, right? My baseboards
Yeah.
being painted wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
but my
Mm-hmm.
backyard would.
Yes. Yes. Which is where I think you have to start with like, that's why all the decluttering experts are like, start with decluttering, because it might feel more fun and gratifying to start with like aesthetic, for example. But if you start with the basics, that might not feel as like fun and gratifying, like organizing and decluttering. That makes your day-to-day systems that much easier, and then you have that mental space and that extra time to focus on those like fun extra projects. And I'm
Yeah.
not perfect at that. Like, I've had plenty of times where it's like, I'm gonna decorate this wall and this closet, I can't even open it. Wall is
It's a
really
Monica
important.
closet.
But now that I've like we've lived here long enough that I have like organized our spaces now, I'm like, oh yeah, like at the end of the day, that does, for me, that makes my life a lot easier, is the organization, and the decorating, the aesthetic is fun, but it's extra,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And it's crazy how much your home affects your brain. And I
Yes.
don't feel like I totally made that connection. I did and I didn't. Like I remember in high school, I would either have to, and I'm kind of a neat freak, and I always have been, but also like I'm still human, and you
Yeah.
know, it
Yes.
life would be crazy, and I wouldn't get to it, and so like I would try and go do my homework, and if my room was messy, I couldn't do my homework in there, so I would either have to find a quiet place, like a visually quiet place, or
Yes.
I would have to clean my room before I could focus on my homework. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm still the same way. Like if I need my bedroom is usually the very first place I clean because I need to have one place that I can just go. It's either like my bedroom or doing the dishes because there's something about having dishes in the sink that like
Yes.
or even not even in the sink necessarily, dishes on the counter. If the
Yeah.
counters are clear but the sink is full, like it's fine.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But it's also taking me so long to get to that point where like I could go to bed with dishes in the sink.
Amen. Because that's a gift too. Like, I've had to work through lots of stuff like with things like that, where like it's that being aware of the moment and what it calls for. Like some days it's like, no, honestly, we need to take some time to just like tidy up before we move on to these things, and we feel so much better from doing that. And then I do think that there are days where like that can be uncomfortable, but that can be a gift to yourself to say like, you know what, I'm just gonna call it a day right now. And
Yeah.
tomorrow be a little bit more catch up, but like especially if you're just so burned out that day,
Yeah.
you know, pushing. And because at least for me, I'm someone where like I have a hard time stopping. So especially if I'm burned out and I'm like, okay, I just gotta like finish the kitchen and I'm done with that. I'm like, and this now, and this now,
Oh
and
yeah,
you
if I
know,
get a second wind,
yeah,
I can go forever.
good. Like I need that time to slow down and rest and recharge. So you kind of like it. I just think all these things, it's all just a balance, right? Like
Yeah.
I, I've swung like this even with minimalism, where I've gone like super hardcore and then had to go and like rebuy some things from like I wish I had gotten rid of that.
Yeah.
So you find that balance of like, yeah, just simplifying, but also like I guess just realizing things are never gonna be perfect.
Yeah. And I think taking it day by day, basically, like you said, where there's going to be some days where, like, I'm a huge proponent of like putting your house to bed at night.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just need to go to bed and have a cutoff time and just be done for the day.
Yeah.
And at least
Yes.
for me, those are the more rare days. But being able to take a step back and go, what is most important, right? Like, what are my priorities right now?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
most of the time, I'm way better if I can set my house up and be ready for the next day and not feel like I'm starting out like with negative points basically. Right? I'm already behind for the day. Um but there's some days where I need the rest and that's going to give me more of that boost I need than
Hmm.
the cleaning is. And so being able to like listen to my body and what I need most and what's most important in that moment because I is going to shift slightly, not just it's going to be day to day, but kind of like we were talking about, like we could have this conversation a month from now and it would be probably really different because you're going to have a newborn. And so, of course, it's going to be different. And then, even like a month later than that, it's going to look different too. And so just being able to, I think sometimes we get frustrated, at least I get frustrated by the constant change of seasons of life,
Yeah.
especially with little kids where you're changing seasons so often, right? And with a newborn, we're like they're so different in a couple weeks even, right?
Yes.
So their needs change and so your needs change and sometimes I just get so frustrated like can I just like find something that works and stick with it? But I also feel like constantly changing one like sorry, that's just life. And
Yeah.
I have to accept that myself because I don't love that all the time. But I think it gives us that constant opportunity to be making sure that things are aligned with what our current priorities are.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. Like as you're saying all of that, I'm flashing back to so many conversations of this exact principle with people in my life where it's been like, for example, like we potty trained my daughter a couple months ago. And I remember being really frustrated coming out of that because I thought it would be faster getting back to normal life. And it wasn't. Um, and yeah, just realizing that that is just, I think, a principle of life is just being able to be flexible and to say, we're going through a pretty crazy stage right now. Where can we, like, an example be cooking? Like, when we're going through a crazy stage, I might look at like the kinds of meals that I'm cooking because I enjoy cooking. I
Mm.
like lots of variety and
Me
sometimes I
too.
cook, right? And so when things are crazy, I might look at like, okay, I know that I enjoy that and I would prefer to have like a variety of different breakfasts and lunches and dinners. But right now, like I just need to feed my family.
Mhm.
So what are some like basic fast dinners that I can go have as a go-to while we're going through this transition, you know? And that doesn't
Yes.
mean forever, but like just finding or like cleaning the house. Like I would prefer for all of these things to be clean, but if I had to pick like just bare bones things that would be clean each week, these are the things that I would pick.
Yeah. What is going to make the biggest difference?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I was totally thinking about the meal thing as I was making Miles a quesadilla the other day because that's what he eats is quesadillas. Like
Not good.
daily, multiple times a day. That's like his favorite thing. Um, but for a while I was making like homemade sourdough tortillas
Uh-huh.
and I was like, man, I would love to get back to that. And then part of me was like, but actually I don't right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like in the winter, I'm way more likely to do that.
Yes.
My
Yes.
house is also often cleaner in the winter because I spend more time in my house. And so I'm more worried about it. We're honestly in the summer, like we're never inside and we're at the park or the pool or something all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just don't care as much. And it's
Yes.
taken a lot of time for me to get to the point where like I really don't care. But we also get to the point where we're like, okay, it's time to, everybody
Yes.
gather. We're gonna go crazy for a couple hours and get
Yes.
everything back to a setup stage. But I was just thinking about that, making this tortilla of like, okay, I'm sure in a few months when I'm not at the park or the pool at least once, if not multiple times a day, almost every single day, I will probably get back to some of those other things like making homemade tortillas again. And right now, that's not what I want to be spending my time because I want to be outside and enjoying every bit
Mm.
of the sunshine while it lasts because it's my absolute favorite time of year.
Yes. Yes. And if your kids have a store-bought tortilla, like, it's how much is that going to affect their quality of life? If it's something you
Yeah.
enjoy, but like again, it doesn't mean they'll never
And
have
I
a
do enjoy it, but right now I don't enjoy it as much as the other things, and it's
yeah.
not worth my time for right now.
Yes. Yes. No, I couldn't agree more with all of that. Just times and seasons, and even just this last year, something I've worked on with myself is just when I want to introduce something new, just slowing down before I jump into that and saying, is this the time that I want to bring this into my life? Because any new thing that you bring, like you need time for that. So that time has to come from somewhere else. So what are you
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice to bring this new thing in? Um, and just being really careful to not do lots of new things all at the same time.
Ooh,
Because
okay. I love that. I've never thought about it in that way, but I love the intentionality behind that. Do you have like an example of what you've
yes, let
done
me,
that you're willing to share?
hmm, I can tell you all the things I've not brought in.
Well, I feel like
Because,
that's helpful too. Like, yes, I
yeah,
would love to
okay.
hear that.
So last summer we did our community garden, which was
Uh-huh.
awesome. Loved that. Like it was very fulfilling. It was a lot of work because it's like a 5 minute drive from us. It's not, we live in a big complex. So we had to drive to the garden and work in it, and it's not shaded, it's just like in the dirt, like
Uh,
the farm, right? Um and so this year when it came time to do the garden, I actually had a lot of friends who were, and I should preface this with, I am not like saying one decision is right or not.
oh
So I
yeah,
had a
totally.
who were doing it, and they were in the same situation as me where they're due in the summertime, they're going to have a new baby. And so it's kind of tricky for me because in my mind, I'm thinking, like, I don't want to do this. Like, that feels like a lot to do right now. But then I'm seeing all these other people who are about to do that and who are doing it actually.
Uh-huh.
And so that could cause me to like go back on my decision. But Garrett and I really like, we just talked through it and we thought, like, okay, if we do the garden, this is what our summer will look like. Our extra time will go into working on this. And we had just come out of like we redid the flooring in our condo. So we're coming out of like a pretty heavy work season in our spare time. And so we'd kind of had that mentality of like, hey, we're gonna like really buckle down and get this done this spring, but we want to play in the
Yeah.
summer. Like outside. We want to enjoy that time relaxing and just, yeah, just like really soaking in that time before it gets a little crazy again. So with the garden, that was kind of something that we had to envision, was like, do we enjoy this enough to spend our spare time doing this, or would we rather do something else? And so we ended up saying no to it for this year. Now, like, I'm sure in the future I will do it, but that's just kind of something that we'll continue to approach, is like, what's the summer looking like for us? Do we want to be taking this on? Like, yeah, how does
Yeah.
this fit in, and is it worth it?
Oh, okay. I love that. I actually feel like I did the same thing because I like with a garden. I bought garden boxes last fall, and when I cleaned up my yard for the fall, put like all my stuff in there, and I was so excited to like get my dirt in there in the spring, and it got to like May and I still hadn't even put dirt in, let alone planted anything. And I was just like, and I was looking at what I wanted to do for this summer. So I feel like I just didn't have like a formal process for it or didn't think about it, but I wanted to spend my time playing, and I could see our days already filling up so quickly that
Yes.
it wasn't worth. I feel like I'd be more stressed. It
Mhm.
would be more of a stress, even though like I want to teach my kids to work in the yard and play in the dirt and grow something themselves, and like I want to do that with them, but not right now.
Yeah.
And
And
that may even been like we talked about doing it for the winter and doing like covered, I don't even know what to call it. I obviously know many things about gardening, but doing it like covered and have some stuff through the winter, I think would be kind of fun and would get us outside even when it's cold and snowy. So we'll see if we do that. I might end up
yeah,
deciding that it's not worth it, but I
yes.
can though. Like I
Yeah.
can decide to do it or just wait till next year and have it be, yeah,
Yeah.
like Parker has at his school, they get to work at the gardens they have at the school. So that might be like a fun thing next year to go, oh, I learned how to do that. Let's keep doing it over
Yeah.
the summer.
Yes. Yes. I also think that sometimes we base decisions on feeling like we need to commit to a system. So it's
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna do a garden or not do a garden, and like, I'm truly speaking for myself with this. Like, yeah, I'm either gonna grow this whole plot of land, or like, I'm not gonna do anything. But like, you could get a house plant.
Yeah.
Same thing. Oh, like, I've wanted to make bread. I've wanted to do sourdough, but I've held off on that for now. And I'm like, I mean, I make pizza dough every so often, but it's almost like in my mind, it doesn't count. Like, I'm not a bread person, but like, it does count, those
Yeah.
moments, like sprinkling those things in. Maybe it's not a weekly ritual that you do, but that's the beauty of it, is you can experiment, and then you can decide what rituals you want to bring into your life that will help it feel simpler, and what things you can say goodbye to for a time in a season.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like going back to the sourdough tortillas, for a while that felt simple. Like it not in like a how do I say this? It felt like simplifying my life because it felt like going back to like a simpler way of living of I was really focusing on homemaking as much as possible.
Mhm.
And right now I'm in a season where like that it's complicating my life more than it's simplifying it. And again, like I said, I'm sure in the winter I will probably end up going back to that
Totally,
because
totally.
that's going to make my life feel more simple. But like I feel like even that definition is so fluid.
Yes, it's different, which is why, like, it has to be an individual thing, because it's going to feel different to everyone. Like, something that might be stressful to me would feel peaceful to you, and vice versa.
Yeah, like with bread, like that is peaceful to me. I don't do it as much again in the summer. I think that's more because I
Yeah.
don't want to turn my oven on to 500 degrees,
Yep.
literally. But
Whenever I cook in the summer, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so hot in here. I'm like, what
oh,
am I
and
doing?
like you were talking about meals and how you like variety, and I'm like, yes. But I also very much like to eat in season, not necessarily even because like I mean, how do I say this? I do, but honestly, more of it is like I don't want warm things in the
Yep.
summer.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I'm like trying to find recipes that are very summery recipes because in the winter I'm gonna want the soups and the, crock pot,
Yes. Yes.
whatever. But like these warmer things, like I very much cook based on that. And so my meal planning is a little
Different.
right now that's important to me because I hate eating warm things. Like I always ask Caden, like, oh, what are we gonna have? Like, do you have any suggestions for dinner this week? And he suggests something. I'm like, no, not that. He's like, I don't
Um,
know my offer because you don't take my
I,
suggestions. But I'm like, no, that's not summer food.
I actually just recently learned about, I don't know how I've made it this far into my adult life without learning about this, but the whole eating in seasons, like part of it is energy efficiency. The like
No.
you're turning your oven on in the winter, it's like helping to heat up your
Oh
home.
yeah, okay,
I
that
don't
makes
want to do
sense.
that in summer because then you're having to kick on your AC and like I'd never thought about that. I was like, that makes sense
Yeah.
because who likes standing in a hot kitchen in the summer?
No, it's kind of the worst actually. So I'm like the
Oh,
less warm things. So we have like a lot of salady type, like
yeah,
good, like power bowls. That's like my
yeah,
go. Mm.
that sounds amazing.
But then in the winter, I'm kind of meh about them because
Yeah,
they're cold. Not like
uh-huh.
cold, but they're not warm and comforting and cozy,
It's,
and so that's not what I want to eat.
yes, that makes sense.
Okay, so if someone was starting, like, okay, I want to try and simplify things, but my life feels really chaotic right now, and I don't know what to cut out. Do you have any suggestions of like where to even
Where to
start?
be? Oh man, let's see here. I'm gonna look back at my where did it go?
This is my friends.
My I'll look back through my journey. Let's see. To be honest, I would start with one of, again, there's no one right way to do this, but I
Yeah,
would
definitely.
start with one of these two things for me personally. I would either start with my possessions, so like all of my stuff, which is pretty cliche. Like that's, how most minimalism people work, is you start with the stuff that you own. Um, or you can also start with just, I would just say like your routines, what you're spending your time doing, what you're putting time into. And yeah, just looking at like what is there stuff that I'm putting time into that doesn't actually matter to me that I could cut out or simplify, and then maybe you can use some of that time to declutter a little bit. Um Decluttering's never really been super hard for me, so that's a like because I
Yeah.
know it. Well, I'm actually going on that. I think that's something to keep in mind, especially with simplifying materialism, is just coming to terms with some people are emotionally attached to things
Hmm.
and some people aren't. And one is not morally above the other.
Yeah.
We're all just different with that. And so I think like, yeah, like simplifying your stuff might come really easy to someone because they don't feel as emotionally attached to their stuff. And it might be really challenging for somebody else. And so maybe you need some extra help there if you are someone who feels like, yeah, like you just feel really tied to your things and it's really difficult to let go of things.
Yeah. And that might be more comfortable of like, okay, maybe simplifying doesn't even look like the material things at all. Because some
Yes,
people feel more comfortable, like, I mean, maximalism is a thing for a reason, right?
totally.
And I definitely lean
Our
more to
economy.
the minimalism side. But maximalism, my goodness, I can't say that word today. Maximalism is a thing and people love that and feel comfortable, but I think the simplifying your life everyone can kind of relate to. Like busyness has become such a badge of honor,
Yes,
but no
yes.
one really likes it
Yeah,
to an extent. And I'm definitely someone who like needs to be going. I don't love to sit still most of the time. And I've seen stages of my life where I've gone so far that like I'm literally making myself sick because
Yes.
I am
Mm.
running myself into the ground and
Ah,
being able to go, okay, here's a comfortable place in this season and letting rest be productive.
yes. Yes.
Giving myself that space to just have nothing. And
Hmm.
um in my schedule for this summer, I have one kind of 2 days a week that like I don't really have that much going on specifically
Yes.
because I need a day to just catch up on laundry or catch up on groceries or just not do anything because I need that because I do recognize like yes I like to be going, I like to be getting out of my house, I like to be
Huh?
going to the park and seeing friends and all those things, and I also need the other side of
Yes.
just being home and not having anywhere to be and no timeline, and so I've found a somewhat balance
Mhm.
of what works for me right now. And I know as soon as school starts, like things
It'll
are going
change.
to totally shift. And, but at the same time, I also won't be, like splash pad water turns off and the pools are closed. And so, like, those things aren't even an option. And so I won't care to be going out quite as much, anyways. And
Yeah.
so it's naturally going to shift. I don't even remember where I was going with this. Oh, just
No,
starting with like your
I agree.
like finding your balance there and going, okay, what's important to me right now, and letting, that's what I was going to say, is letting those rest days or hours or pockets of time in your day be there. Like it's okay to have nothing going on, and that doesn't mean that something's wrong with you, that you're not
Yeah.
being productive enough, that you're, yeah,
Mhm.
busyness is just this badge,
Yeah. Yeah.
and letting that it be okay to not be busy.
Yes. And that's what makes you appreciate the fun, busy days is that you have days to contrast that of
Yeah.
rest. If all you ever have is busy, then I think, at least for me, that's when I start to resent my life.
Hmm.
But when you add in those days of recharging, then like it is fun and exciting and something that you look forward to. It's like summertime. Like if our life was like summertime all the time, like
Be
I don't
exhausting.
yeah, I think one, we'd be exhausted. A lot of stuff, at least for us, wouldn't get done that we do more in the winter.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it really, that's what makes it special is that it's contrasted with those other days.
Yes, totally. It was really interesting. We just went to Bear Lake last week, with Caden's family, and I feel like I did nothing the first couple days. Like I could not get myself to just like go
Get
do
in vacation.
yes. And I was like, okay, I may be overdoing the play just a little bit, even with my balance of like having a day or
Yeah.
two to kind of have nothing. Like, and I wasn't feeling burnt out until I had the opportunity to rest. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired.
Yes. Yes. That is so relatable.
So it was a good, like, okay, maybe I need to rethink things at least a little bit. And the other part of me is like, but actually I don't want to. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out how this goes. But it was definitely a good, like,
Check
I don't
in
know,
with yourself.
moment of, yeah, exactly. Like trying to be introspective of like, okay, is this actually what I want and need to be doing? Is this like the best thing? That was kind of the other part of it is like I know Parker is like me and wants to be out and going and playing, and Miles is a little bit more, he still likes to, but he's a little bit more of like a homebody, and he needs the more calm, quiet environment to
Yeah.
kind of recharge.
Uh-huh.
And so realizing for myself that I was maybe overdoing it just a little bit, even if I could like back off like one day, have
Mhm.
2 days to just be like, that might not just be helpful for me, but it
Mhm.
might also be the best thing, more of a balance for my kids.
Yes, like it's because I have the same dynamic with my kids, and I'm also similar to my eldest with that. And I think like it might feel uncomfortable, like for me and my son, my oldest child, to slow down because we want that like go out and have fun and just go go go. So it might feel more uncomfortable to be home and have things be a little bit simpler and getting things done. But that's good for all of us because you
Yeah.
don't want to just prioritize your family life based off one person all the time.
Yeah.
So just like for our second children, like, that's good for them to kind of be stretched and to go out and have that playtime. But again, like we all need, even though we might not feel like it because it feels uncomfortable, we all do need both in
Yeah.
our lives.
And maybe that's like I know as I've been thinking about this just the last day or two, it's kind of been the push I need to actually reevaluate and do something about it, is
Mhm.
thinking about Miles and how he
Yes.
would probably do better.
Uh-huh.
And that like it's easier for me to be like, okay, this is for Miles, even if
Mhm.
it's actually for me too. But like just being able to think about him and go, okay, for him I can do that.
Yes.
And that's going to be a better dynamic for our family as a whole instead of just for me.
Yes. Totally. Totally. Um, this is like totally off track from what we're talking, but I did want to bring it up because I know you work with young moms, and this is like the number one thing I get asked about a lot because when people come over to my house, it's always like a little bit shocking because I don't have very much stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like I've been asked many times, like, where's all of your stuff? And I'm like, this is it. you know? um, One thing that I think can quickly make our lives feel complicated and that's a consistent reoccurring thing is gift giving
Mm.
and just like toys and things, especially like if you're working with young moms and you have young kids, like, oh my gosh, I could not
I
believe
hate gift
how many
giving. I really do.
in the first couple years of my son's life, I was like, we need an extra room just to accommodate, like, and it was genuinely things we were being given. Like,
Yeah.
we were not, and like I said, we were moving a ton. It was like, we can't take this all with us. But then there's the emotional attachment of like, grandma gave this to them, or like, just things like that. Like, and people follow up on gifts. People want to see like how you're using them, and it can feel really offensive that you don't own things anymore that people gave to you. Um anyway, that's something that I'm really passionate about because as we've had to like really find our what works for us at this time in our lives, right? Where we do live in a smaller space. Um I feel like that's brought a lot of peace because I don't get as anxious around like holidays and birthdays anymore. Because it used to be like, what are they going to get gifted and how are we going to fit it? And just, and just,
What do you do? Because I literally have a text sitting in my inbox unread because I don't know how to answer it, of
a
my
gift.
sister-in-law is going, okay, the cousins need to give Miles a gift for his birthday. What should they do? And
Yes.
I don't know what to say because I don't want more stuff. And
Yes.
I feel like once they're a little bit older, I can be like, oh, give them experiences. And not that I can't right now, but they're like not excited about that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
They want to be the cool.
give them a few more years and they're like, oh, I get to go do this with grandma or with my cousins or with mom and dad. Like they'll be excited by that, and that will be enough, but
Yeah.
like when they're little, they want the stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
way more exciting. They're like, cool, a paper that says I'm gonna go do something.
Totally.
Like
Totally.
I literally have this sitting here going like, I want to say nothing. And
Uh,
honestly, it's past his birthday. He probably wouldn't even know or care that much. But what do
you're
you
like,
do? Because I totally am like, oh, I don't want Christmas to come around a little bit because I don't want just more stuff.
uh-huh.
So what do
Yes.
you say with young kids specifically?
So I should preface this with how I answer if you do this, it may not make you the most popular person. And like that really is the honest truth. I think that it coming from the other side has been frustrating to work with us in this way because it's like, why are you being so intense about this? And like, at least for us, we can blame it on our small space. But in reality, we've like my husband and I have talked, we're like, we prefer to live this way. Like, even if we had a big house, we would still probably approach things like this because this is just what aligns with our values and brings us happiness. So I again, it ebbs and flows. Like,
Yeah.
this might I approach it right now, but last year it was different. I do stick with a lot of experiences whenever possible. If someone's willing to do an experience, that's what I go with because that's what we like to do, you know?
Yeah.
So like we had for my son's birthday, we had my in-laws gifted him a pass to like a kids jumping place near us.
Fun.
Um, I'm trying to think. For Christmas, we had some family give Jade, my daughter, some jewelry because she had really wanted like things like that where it's like, oh, maybe it's like a clothing thing, but what's like a fun thing that they want that would feel special. Um, let me think here. We've also done like everyone helping to contribute to something. So like one time we got them a play kitchen. So we had like different family members contribute to parts of the kitchen. Like somebody gifted play food and somebody gifted the pots and pans and we did this. Um, I think, yeah, just for me, if they're willing to spend time with them and do an experience, that is like that's really what my kids want at this point. They just want to spend time with family. So if we can turn that into an excuse to spend time with them, awesome. I'm also in the space of like, I'm not gonna like force people. So I think you have to give people, you know, their space to gift what they want. But if it's something you've communicated about before, like, hey, these are some ideas of things that we would love to have gifted to them, and then they choose to go rogue, that like, you know, like I feel like again it sounds rude, but like you just have to know if you go rogue, go for it, but a consequence maybe we might not hold on to this.
Yeah.
Like you want us to, and that is I understand like that can feel so offensive and like a lot of I think especially like our parents and grandparents are coming out of this time where you hold on to everything, like you keep everything, everything's nostalgic, and so we have this new generation that's just like out with this, out with that, and it feels really thing, but it's really just all of us trying to simplify because I don't want to clean up toys for 2 hours every night, and my kids actually play a lot better with just a couple core things that they really like, and that
100%.
complicate gift giving.
Yeah. And I guess like if that's what they're used to of just getting experiences, like if they don't really know very different, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yes. And I
Okay,
definitely
I'll have to
think
think
so.
about that.
Yeah, like I mean maybe not right now, but like someday like they can gift money and like your kid can go pick out, and again, that's not fun to give for some
Yeah.
people. Some people are like I want to give them this thing that I picked out. Like we do when we gift, we try to do a lot of like homemade things, which, you know, yeah, I feel really like granola with that. I'm like, here, but also it's really special because I do enjoy giving gifts, and in the past like I would spend, like speaking of simplifying, I would spend so much time trying to think of the perfect gift because I wanted to get something that they would actually use. Like I don't want to be spending my time on and money on something they're just gonna like have sit in their cupboard or throw out. And that's kind of what I came to is like, you know what, it's really fun for me and my kids to like make something for them that we know is going to get used versus trying to buy this like plastic thing on Amazon that may or may not ever see the light of day.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's given me a lot to think about actually, because I have struggled specifically with the gift giving of like, I don't know. And like we've come up with some things like one year for their birthdays, they got a camp chair and a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Like that was a fun stuff, but like not just stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a sleeping
Yes.
bag. Like they're gonna use it. They play with their camp chairs all the time. They're I came out the other day and they had grabbed their camp chairs out of the garage and set it up in the driveway, and they like found some wood that we took camping sometime last year or the year before. They like found some wood and like built this little fire in between their camp chairs, and they like found the roasting sticks and like held them over their little quote unquote campfire, and they were playing camping, and it was, oh, they got out their sleeping bags too, actually had them rolled out on the grass.
Oh,
Like it was so funny. But I mean, they go camping. My husband takes them camping a couple, like through the summer, a couple times a month.
yeah.
And so it gets used and it's like good. We were
Yes.
so excited about it. Like it was a toy, but it was also
Yes. It's
more than
part
that
of,
for them. So coming up with some of those, I don't know, it takes a little more effort to think about things, but some of those things that are more,
yes. Yes. And
yeah,
especially have big families, like you're mentioning with your cousins, like if you like, we were getting gifts at one point for my son, like for every holiday imaginable and like every family. But so it really was, it was just like, oh my gosh, like what are the next 12 years gonna look like, you
yeah,
know? Um, but I just, yeah, like I think that, oh man, I totally just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was gonna say that you, especially if you have like a lot of loved ones and friends and people, like you have to think that way, like that's a lot of people giving gifts.
yeah,
And I remember getting an invite to a toddler party once, and they said like no gifts please on it, and I was like, that's a thing, you can say that on a birthday invite, which again can sound really like a mean parent move, like don't bring my kid gifts. But like if you're thinking in the long run, and if this aligns with your values, like for us, what we want for our kids is them to spend time with people
yeah,
that they love. So the greatest gift that you can give is like coming to be with our kid and having a great time. And like they're going to get gifts. Like we're going to make sure that they have some fun gifts, but like we want all of these, we want to help other people simplify their lives and
yeah,
not have to like worry about what are they going to bring to this person's birthday, and so on and so forth. I just think there's a lot of ways like that where you really can just, you can simplify a birthday party by that. And at least for me, like, I mean, what feels easier to go to? Like a birthday party where you can just show up, or a birthday party where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna bring them?
oh yes. And you don't want to come with three of the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at least for me, like birthday parties, I almost don't want to bring a gift because I think even if you don't necessarily subscribe to like the minimalist
Mhm.
lifestyle, I think at the same time, like I don't know a single parent that I've talked to that's like really enjoys birthdays and bringing all the stuff in.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like I don't know a single one that's like that. Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, now we have to find a place to put all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, like it can be working through your childhood. Like, I don't know how you grew up. Like I grew up, that was totally normal. And so it can feel like, oh, like, is that mean that I'm not letting my kid just like have all of this? And I just think, at least for me at this point in my life, like, no, I feel like that's a gift that I can give my kid, is just learning how to have fulfillment with less stuff and find that deeper meaning in those experiences. And we're not going to like, we're not going to refuse them ever getting any gift ever, but just really like, really dumbing down and seeing where we can make it a little bit less.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I always end with asking what is a magic in the mundane moment you've had with your kids recently? Just that moment where you're like, oh, this is my life. Like, how great is that?
That's a great question. I have so many of them every day. Just kidding. Um, I'll share mine from today. So my son just got stitches last weekend, so we've had a bit of a rearranging of our summer activities because he can't do like water activities and get his hand all dirty, which is pretty much what we do every single day of the summer. So we were at the park this morning and he came up to me with this single cherry and he was like, "Mom, I want to make a birthday cake and put this cherry on top of it. Can we make a cake?" And I was like, normally I'd be like, "Oh man, like bake a cake today. I don't know about that." And I just thought, you know what? We don't really have anything going on. Why not? Let's make a cake and put this cherry on it. So, so I actually had a bunch of cherries. So I found like this cherry chocolate cake recipe that we made. Um, and we have these awesome downstairs neighbors. They're a really cute older couple from Peru. And they'll like bring us food every so often. And my kids are obsessed with them. They're like our neighborhood grandma and grandpa.
Cute.
So like as we're cutting the cake, my son was like, "Mom, can we please cut a piece and share it with Vicky since she shared a piece of cake with us last week?" And I was just like, "That's so cute." He wanted
Sweetheart.
to and gave it to her, and he was just like on top of the world. He was like, "That was so fun to share with her." And my daughter's like, "I love Vicky." And I don't know. I just love that because like kids are just so pure, and that didn't come from me. That just came from him just like remembering that somebody shared with him and he wanted to feel that joy of sharing with them. And yeah, I'm glad that we did this random activity that was completely led by my son.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. It was so fun.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, so message me on Instagram at @themissy_allred. There is always room in our village, so if you enjoyed it, will you please send it to a friend or leave a rating and review? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you next week.